Welcome to Worldview Matters, discussing controversial issues, discerning current events, defending biblical Christianity. No topic off limits. And now, here's your host, David Fiorazzo.
Hey friends, thank you so much for sharing the podcast, for being with us, for supporting us, for praying. I'm looking forward to my guest, Brandon Holthaus. Again, it's just such a great blessing to talk with him and catch up with him as frequently as I can, because that's a man that's doing some great ministry, and I just love what he's doing for the body of Christ and, of course, the country, trying to wake people up. But anyway, before we do that, I want to thank you for following us on Rumble. If you're not familiar with our Rumble channel, please follow Freedom Project Media, or you can download the Freedom Project Media app, and you can see Worldview Matters that way. I also have a personal Rumble, which is kind of my backup, which I needed a couple weeks ago when I was banned for violating community standards on YouTube, and I was taken off, but I'm back on for the moment. But anyway, Rumble, check us out. So Brandon, Rock Harbor Church, Tip of the Spear Ministry, can't wait to talk about some of these things today with you, brother. Welcome back to Worldview Matters.
David, thanks for having me, my friend. Always good to be with you, brother. We have a lot of things to talk about.
Yes, always. But I want to first mention the Tip of the Spear Ministry.com. Tip of the Spear Ministry.com. You're on YouTube and Instagram and other outlets. But let me ask you first, before we get into, you've got a big conference coming out. It's going to be in Woodland Hills, September 6th and 7th. That's why we wanted to get you on again here in August to talk about that. But you are also going to be speaking at a different conference. This is Tom Hughes, Hope for Our Times, November 8th through 10, End of the World Conference. And here's what I want to ask you right off the top. That is right after the 2024 election, assuming there is going to be an election, and it's called End of the World. Do you guys know something that the rest of us don't? Go ahead.
It's a pretty provocative title to put out there that Tom put out there. But anyway, I think what Tom was trying to get at is that, hey, we're in the last days, and there's no doubt about that. And what does these last days look like as we head towards getting closer and closer to the tribulation? And obviously, we believe in a pre-tribulational rapture, but we obviously see the setup. So what does the end of the world setup kind of look like, and what's the trajectory that it's taking? And he's going to have me there along with other speakers. And primarily, I'm going to be focusing in on Israel, and a lot of the speakers are going to be focused on Israel, because what's happening in Israel right now is a complete powder keg. And everybody, if you're paying attention to what's going on in Israel, you've got Hezbollah, you got Hamas, obviously, the Houthis, and then Iran behind all of this. And we know there is an inevitable war that's looming that could then set off prophetic wars like Gog of Magog and Psalm 83 or something like that. What I hear from the guys on the ground, and I have my contacts with the IDF, I have my contacts in Israel that are people that live there, that are have connections into the intelligence areas. They say it's inevitable. They're telling me the IDF troops that I'm in contact with, they're moving and massing troops to the north right now, because the next stage is to have a war with Hezbollah. And basically, they have to push Hezbollah out and not give any sovereign territory to Hezbollah. And so there's a coming war there. And they know that inevitably that's a tripwire for Iran. So the IDF is telling me, my guys on the ground, that they're already preparing for a war with Iran. Wow. So that's what's happening on the ground. So it's not like if this will happen, it's when. And I think this is my opinion, David, that this next election thing that's brewing in front of us is going to play into this, because, look, we've already known that if Trump gets in there, that Iran doesn't really want to mess with a guy like Trump, and neither do a lot of rogue nations. That's a given. And so there is a window of time here before this next election comes in that possibly, and that's my term, possibly could be a window to where Iran says, hey, look, we don't know what we're going to get, We know what we have now with the Biden administration, or really the Kamala, or whatever you want to call it, Leviathan administration. We know what we got with them, and they're not willing to start a war in this election cycle. So you're dealing with these bad actors that know they have a gap here, David. And again, this is me saying maybe, possible, but I'm not, 100% sure ever. But this is what I'm hearing on the ground, that if they're going to attack, now would be the time.
And we hear that from a lot of people too, and it makes sense because if President Trump gets in the White House again, if he gets reelected, things are going to change when it comes to what countries and leaders do worldwide geopolitically. And that brings me to your conference, which is coming up September, is it 6th and 7th?
Yeah, September 6th and 7th in Woodland Hills, California.
Yep, the Geopolitical Ramifications Prophecy Conference. And so where is it going to be held, and how can people get tickets?
So you can go to tipofthespearministries.com, and you can go online and either stream it, or you can attend in person. It's going to be in Woodland Hills, California. I think the Marriott there, and it's a great conference center. And you're going to hear from the best speakers around the world to be able to connect not only prophetic dots, but what would be the ramifications if the elections go a certain way? What happens if Trump gets in? Or what happens if Kamala, who is running, gets in there? Or what happens if they assassinate Trump or something? What happens if they have mail-in ballots? And we're going to be discussing these types of topics, and then the possible outcomes. And then where does that take us prophetically from as far as biblical prophecy is concerned? So it's going to be very exciting, but a lot of the speakers are going to be doing deep dives in it. So it's not your typical Prophecy 101 conference. We're going to assume the audience already knows a basic idea of prophecy.
Yes.
And so our job is to, let's take what we know and then bridge it to the trajectory that's happening right now already in front of us. So it's going to be a very, very well-informed audience after that conference.
Yep, you mentioned potential trend lines, and when you sent me the information and described it to me, and I'm looking at the guests. I mean, Worldview Matters viewers would love to hear, because these are all people that we've heard from. Of course, you, Patrick Wood, Lee Brainerd, Billy Crone, Alex Newman, John Haller, Tom Hughes, Bill Koenig, Carl Teichert, Mondo Gonzalez. Brandon, the only person we have not had on here is Bill Salas, so I'm going to have to connect with him. Then I can say, we have had all the people from the Prophecy Conference, the Geopolitical Ramifications Conference. Now we've had them all on. But so you mentioned something before we got on here. We were talking about the direction for this program, fifth generation warfare. That's what you're seeing. It's already happening. Can you describe what that is and what you're seeing?
Yeah, and I think for people to be aware of what's happening is the environment is being set for a global revolution, not a communist revolution, a global revolution. And if you watch the playbook, what they do is they always prepare the environment, and they do it through psychological operations, asymmetrical warfare. So if you're thinking that the United States is going to be attacked from without, and it's going to be a conventional warfare, and that's what's going to bring down the United States, you're not thinking straight. What's happening already is we have an embedding of bad actors in our government, in our institutions, in our media, in everything. And what's happening is a psychological operation to prepare the ground. Now, let me explain the psychological operation. The first thing you have to do then is you have to target the group that you want to target to demonize. At that point, we already know the target. The target has been white conservative evangelicals or Christians, okay?
Yep.
So that's where the white privilege comes from. So you that's already happening. And then what happens on the morality is you have to invert the morality and get people to think that the abnormal, that the unnatural, that the hybrid is actually the norm. And then that becomes exalted in the society, a la Pride Month, LGBT, transgenderism. Look at the Olympics that just happened. Oh my goodness, wow, off the chart. But that's an example of a psychological operation to create a social not a socialistic, to socialize the minds to accept the abnormal as normal.
Yes.
And then like a guy like you and me, or a Christian out there that's just trying to live a good life, you're the abnormal person. And then you become the perpetrator of this. So that's part of it. But let me step to another part of it, the asymmetrical warfare. Asymmetrical warfare means that they're not going to fight you. You're going to see, you have one-on-one, and you're going to see the enemy. You're not going to see the enemy.
That's right.
So they're going to attack you invisibly through whether it's social media, whether it's the internet, cyber attacks, or just like we just saw, an assassination attempt. Okay, so an assassination attempt is part of asymmetrical warfare. And basically, when you take out a political candidate, you're basically taking away the vote of millions of people who would vote for that individual. So that's an asymmetrical warfare. So instead of them saying, we're going to run a military operation against the conservatives in the United States, and no, you don't need to do that. You just need to take out the guy who they would vote for. And that just happened. And then another part of asymmetrical warfare is you never know the enemy. So, for instance, David, like you and I know that they have all the chokeholds on the media, the politics, the academia institutions, Hollywood. They have control of all of that and all the information outlets. But here's the thing: who do I blame for that? Because it's nebulous. I mean, if I say, yeah, the media's creating operational warfare, psychological warfare, who do I blame for that? There's no one to blame. It's just a big bureaucracy that you can't get your hands around and say, that's the guy right there. You can't do that.
Yeah.
So, and then furthermore, in the asymmetrical warfare, we start having what we understand as people controlling others, like what we saw with the Biden administration. The guy couldn't function. It became obvious at the presidential debate that the guy can't function.
Yeah.
And they couldn't hide it anymore, David. So what happened is they revealed themselves. Not all of it, but they revealed that, look, he's too much. We can't hide him anymore. So he went into hiding. Within 1 week, and all of a sudden, Kamala is the front runner now, and Weekend at Bernie's disappears, and because he has COVID. Okay, and that is what I am talking. Wait a second. If he's not able to run for president, is he able to be president now?
Yes.
So then it leads the question to all of us: who in the world is running the White House?
That's right.
Well, that's what's called fifth generational warfare. You never know who it is. They're always behind the scenes. And here's my thing: if we do not get someone in there to stop this, it's going to continue to get worse for us. And the next thing is, you slap on a digital currency on people, and you tell them that money is programmable, and that if you don't go by the narrative, which is a psychological operation, we will either let your money run out, or we will shut you down, we will cut you off. It's an economic threat to people. Then we're going to see more of that. So this election cycle, it has big ramifications.
Yes. And so, and you and all the speakers are going to be talking about that big time. Man, I think I'll be live streaming that for sure. Again, friends, Tip of the Spear Ministry. And by the way, you can go to Rumble, you can go to, the website, of course, and Instagram and Facebook, and check out Tip of the Spear and the Prophecy Conference. It sounds really beneficial to the body of Christ, helping people connect the dots, not in a way where we're trying to get people to be fearful, but concerned and just aware of what's going on. I believe this is going to be really powerful, Brandon, and I know that's why you're doing it, to help the body because of where we're at. But we've got to take a brief pause. When we come back, we're talking about the geopolitical ramifications and just what's happening now, what we're seeing. One of the things I wanted to mention is something with the VP pick of Kamala Harris and his take on what they consider free speech and or hate speech. That will affect us somehow. We'll be right back with Brandon Holthaus on Worldview Matters.
Today's show is brought to you by Harbinger's Daily, World news biblically understood. Stay informed at harbingersdaily.com.
If you know anyone interested in sponsoring Worldview Matters, please let us know. Email worldviewmatters@fpeusa.org. The website, of course, worldviewmatters.tv. We're thankful to Harbingers Daily, thankful to Freedom Project Academy. We're thankful to Patriot Mobile. We're also thankful for the new exposure we're getting on harpazo.com, Pioneer Network, Beck TV, Harbingers TV, and God's Learning Channel. And hopefully within a matter of weeks, I'm hoping, we'll have an announcement on another way we're getting out there. So thank you. Brandon, when you were describing some of this warfare and what's going on, it made me think of Isaiah 5:20. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil. That's what we're seeing. What you haven't mentioned yet is the media, the leftist or progressive or Democrat or demonic media generally, not all, in America. And I told Alex Newman when he was on, I said, "You're one of the journalists I don't have to use air quotes when I call you a journalist."
That's right.
He got a good laugh out of that. But they've been gaslighting the public for quite some time. But recently, when it comes to Kamala Harris and her policies, her background, her worldview, just the disaster that she is, you would never know that. So is gaslighting part of this psyop, or is that part of this warfare? Go ahead.
Absolutely, man, because she's one of the most radical candidates we could possibly have. And her VP pick is one of the most radical. So we have two socialists, right? And they're trying to make them as moderates and change the narrative. And again, this is like Pravda, right? And so they're changing the narrative, but this is part of the psychological operations. Now, here's the thing about this. So people out there probably in your audience and even in my audience understand that, hey, look, they're bamboozling us. We know what Kamala's about. We've seen what she said. She talks in word salads. It's like, wow, okay, really? But here's what happens though. The general public that's not in tune with truth, and this is where the key of knowing truth and biblical truth comes in. Man, if you're not tied into the Bible, you are fodder to be totally bamboozled by this. And here's the thing. You and I, David, look at this and say, that's crazy. I would never buy into it. But the problem is most people do. The reason they do it is because it does work. And they've learned it from Goebbels. They learned it from the other guy that taught Goebbels, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head. And so this psychological warfare, I mean, this is like in Americana. I'll give you an example, David. This is how they taught Americans to change the food table, because Americans early on in the 20th century were not eating a large breakfast. And so the people who created bacon and eggs propaganda, it actually worked. And they created the mindset that you need to eat bacon and eggs in the morning in Americana. That was done through propaganda. Okay, so and the issue of bacon and eggs are like, well, that's okay. What's the big deal? That was a marketing. But wait a second. If I take that same thing and I tell a lie on a politician, or she wasn't the border czar, and the border's just fine, and don't worry about this. There's no such thing as inflation happening. That's a little bit more serious than telling people to eat bacon and eggs. But what they found out early on, and Goebbels used this in Nazi Germany, is that you can sway the general population, because if you give them schools where indoctrination happens and not education, there's no critical thinking whatsoever, there's no anchors to truth, you can manipulate with anything. Now, Matthias Desmet did the research on this, David, and Matthias Desmet did what we call a mass formation psychosis. And he looked at how people are lied to, whether it's in the Bolshevik Revolution, whether you're dealing with Nazi Germany, or you're dealing with what just happened in America. And I don't want to say what happened to get you kicked off of YouTube. Okay, but we all know what I'm talking about, okay? So what he found out is stunning, David, that 30% of the people will believe a lie just flat out. They don't question anything. And then the other 65% of the population, of any given population through history, 65% of the population will go along with the lie because they have to keep their job, they want to keep working, they want to keep providing for their family. And only 5% of the population, David, will not believe the lie. That's Matthias Desmet who did this research on that. And so what he ended up saying is this: what's the job of the 5%? And the 5% would be you, me, and your audience that's listening. Yeah. What he did find out, so here's hope in all of this, is that the 5%, as long as they kept telling the truth, were able to capture some of the 65% to their side, to the truth. You couldn't, what he found is you couldn't do anything with the 30%. They go over the cliff. So in essence, basically, we see why propaganda, the psyops, works so well, and that's called fifth generation warfare. And now you have technology, Facebook, Instagram, all this to do that. This is where the kids are getting their information, is from Instagram. And so that's where the psychological operation is happening right there. It's not happening to people our age. It's happening to the younger generation whose minds are not formed.
Oh my goodness. And we
Crazy
can see
stuff, huh?
Yeah. Well, we can see some of the fruit of that, some of the fruit of the I guess brainwashing, indoctrination. We're seeing that played out in our culture when they get out into, whether it be the university or get out into the working world or even on social media, this younger generation. And I do want to say, to some degree, it's not their fault. They weren't presented with the whole truth. They've never been told the whole truth. They've been programmed since K through 12. But I want to get back to something you said, and because this is one of my big concerns about not well-informed, remnant, Bible-believing, conservative Christians, right? But the other, maybe Christians, professing Christians, maybe conservatives, or just the general person. You said most people buy it. Most people buy into it, what the media is selling, and we know they lie. We know that. I mean, even surveys, I mean, they have the lowest approval ratings. They have the lowest trust in the media when it comes to Pew. I think it's Gallup and others. Record levels, lows of people think, the media, we know they're lying. And you're thinking, okay, well, why do so many people still, as you said, buy into it? So even though our audiences, in our sphere of influence, are probably better informed, my concern is for the country, really, with people that are, and I don't want to say ignorant, maybe misinformed, maybe not paying attention, and maybe not discerning. So what can you share with us about either your concerns, your thoughts, that maybe something that I'm not looking at?
So let me share. I think there's a fear factor, because if I have to admit what's going on around me, if you're not spiritually mature enough, you won't be able to handle it psychologically. That's what we understand from a psychological standpoint. So a lot of people see what's happening, they hear what you're saying, they hear what I'm saying, and it scares them to death because the spiritual maturity is not there. Now, let me give you an anecdote from my own church, and maybe this will help you. We already know there's biblical illiteracy out there. We know that. And so if you're biblically illiterate, you're going to get deceived. That's just the way it is. You have no discernment, whatever. So let me give you an example from my own church. So I talked to my counselor yesterday, and I give her guidance, biblical counseling and whatnot. David, out of the clients that she was seeing from my church, a remnant church, the overarching issue of many of their problems is because none of them are reading their Bibles.
Oh, boy.
Okay? None of them. So when she would ask them, tell me what your Bible study looks like, it's like crickets, non-existent, not reading. David, these are people that go to remnant churches and they're not reading their Bible. If that is any indication, and that's just an anecdote to go with the stats from Barna and these are people in my church saying, I don't read my Bible at all. Wow. We got a problem here. And that's in the Philadelphia. That's me in the pulpit pounding the drum. And they're not doing it.
Yeah.
And you can see why they're having problems and why they could be deceived. So, man, it really we're in a bad state here, David.
Yes.
Because if you're in a remnant church and not reading your Bible and not being convicted by that, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's so many variables here, and I sense it's almost a perfect storm coming.
Yes.
Where the circumstances and the environment is just so set up, maybe for the Antichrist, maybe for the end. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate, but when you're describing this, I'm thinking, wow, there's some people in very good churches, Bible-believing, prophecy-teaching churches, that they'll go to your conference, they'll watch our programs, they'll share, they'll be all about, they're informed, but they're not doing anything with that. So in other words, they're not impacting their sphere of influence, but they're taking it all in. They just want knowledge. They just want to keep up with everything. And that's not good either. They're well-meaning and they're mature maybe, but then what do you do? Are you bearing fruit? Like you said earlier, if it just takes some people to keep telling the truth, to keep speaking this. You got a minute and a half, Brandon. Go ahead and share your final thoughts.
So my thing is, it's really basic. Read your Bible, okay, guys, read your Bible. But here's the thing, that it's that 5%, David, that can win back some of the 65%. Well, that goes right in line with the Great Commission, right? Go into all the world. Look, I'm not going to win the world. I'm not going to change the trajectory of where the culture's going. People are believing a man can have a baby. I don't know if I can help that, but I can at least rescue as many people as possible with the truth and with the gospel of Jesus Christ. So that's what we got to be doing this time. So it needs to be active and involved in the culture. And not throwing up the white flag of surrender and putting on the white sheets and waiting for Jesus to come back. That's the wrong attitude. You have to be at work until he comes and gets us.
Amen. And I want to just say, Brandon, I really appreciate what you're doing and your voice. An important one out there. Thank you for the conference coming up in September. Tipofthespearministry.com. It's the Geopolitical Ramifications Prophecy Conference 2024, Woodland Hills, California. There will be live streaming September 6th and 7th. Thank you so much. Great to have you on and just prime people for this. It's going to be great. So we'll keep in touch, brother. Yes. Thank you. We'll keep in touch.
Take care, David.
Thank you. You too. All right, guys. It goes by so fast. My goodness. God bless you. And as always, keep speaking the truth about things that matter.